Hi guys, this is Kicker22004 again. Today I'm going to do the software review of the FriendlyArm NanoPi M3 that I did an unboxing to previously. And I'll probably put a link to that down below or up on the screen somewhere right now. Anyway, I've had about a week or so to play with this, and there's some definite things that I like about it, and there's some definite things I don't like about it, and I'm going to go over those things right now. First off, major plus. Actually, before I get into that, I can now record the screen of my devices because I got a hold of a Elgato HD60, and that thing is amazing. I love it so far. So hopefully down the road I get to do more videos of devices and their actual GUI without, hindering their performance in any way. So that's why we're seeing the desktop instead of through a camera or a phone, terribleness. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoy this, and if you do, that's cool. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know down in the comments down below. So let's jump into this. First thing I really like about it, in my pros list, I guess you'd say, is that it has a very smooth desktop, and I'm talking about the UI. It pops things up fairly quickly, and I'll go through some of that right now. If I can find anything I'm looking for, let's say I want to open up gedit, an image viewer. When it comes to a lot of the other ones, other boards, whether Raspberry Pi, Odroids, their desktops are okay, but they're still kind of jerky feeling. And this one here has a little bit of that choppiness you can see, but it doesn't affect it the same as my other boards. And I'm going to show that right now with GLX gears. And I'll show you. If I do this on my Odroid, the gears will stop. Now, after playing with it a little bit, I was able to get the newer drivers and all that, and it doesn't do it so much, so that is a plus. But you still see the slowdown. Here you do see the frames drop, but overall it's very, very fluid. So I have to say the desktop is one of my favorite things about this. It is fluid, so if you were going to use this as a little computer with light internet usage, it would be a good little machine. Now I actually haven't opened LibreOffice yet, so let's go ahead and open that. I just finished putting it in. And when I tested this before, it popped up pretty quick and it was very usable. And we're only running on an SD card. There is no external storages, which is one of my gripes with the board. But overall, it's meant to be tiny and what it is. And it's meant to be this little machine that you can use as a computer if you wanted to. The Android software that they have for it, I wouldn't even look at because it's kind of bad. It's very sluggish. So I'm not going to highlight that. But as far as if you're going to use this as a little productive machine or even on the go kind of machine to keep your stuff, it is very, very smooth when it comes to doing this thing. So, next thing is video. Now, they ship it with Mplayer, which I have no idea why. And the reasoning for that is when you open a file, and I have a sample Big Buck Bunny, you can see that it's not actually using the VPU. It's very, very slow, similar to what you find on other devices as well, without proper driver setups. So that's kind of a downside. However, they do ship it with Mplayer, which we'll go ahead and bounce on over to our videos. Mplayer has been compiled for it, so we shouldn't have that issue. Oop, maybe if I gave it a video, huh? And you'll see here that there's no problem playing the video. And go ahead and even scale it up. You do see the flickers on the screen, not a big issue. And you might have just heard the fan come on. That was one of my biggest gripes, is the fan was very loud. Now let me show you this though. This is what I find amazing of this little board, is it does have definite support here. And even if I pull up Task Manager, you're going to see when it refreshes here that it's not using that much processor. It's definitely using the VPU for this. And if you're going to use this for like watching movies or things like that, that's how you would do it. So, alright. Those are my big pluses to it. It is very, very smooth and it is pretty fast if you were going to use it for a little, I guess you'd say, replacement desktop, but yeah. Anyway, next ones would be Chromium. Is fairly smooth. However, it is kind of slow, and I find this across all the boards, really, but it is a little slow to load on this little machine. So we're going to let it load up, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. I find the same speeds with Iceweasel as well. Alright, so we'll head over to YouTube. Actually, before I head over to YouTube, let's show cats. Why not? Everybody likes cats. And I just want to show some of the speeds on scrolling. It's not bad. And you can see the processor down here in the bottom right. It's not working that hard, but it's definitely not fluid, I guess you'd say, in my mind. It's not as smooth as I would like it. And this does have gigabit Ethernet, and I have more than enough internet speed for this. I mean, it's not that fast, but it's only like 150, but it's still fast enough to load cat images. Now, right now, I've actually froze, so I can't scroll up and down. It's kind of catching up, and this could be due to the SD card just being slow as well. So, many factors to think about here. Let's move on over to, say, YouTube. I was browsing around on there earlier. And I usually click something that pops up down below here, but because of copyright things, I'm not going to, obviously. I don't really want to skip this video. I want it to be the full length. Unfortunately, it might be a little long, but I want to show exactly what a user has to expect if they got this board. Because a lot of times you're told, oh, it has OpenGL, and it has all these other things, and in truth, there's really kind of terrible Linux support. And I'm pretty sure everybody can agree with me on that. The Raspberry Pi is a fantastic board, and for a long time they didn't have true OpenGL, and I understand there's a whole slew of things that go into that. And the desktop is very smooth for what they were able to do with such a small board. But that's over the years that it's been out now. When it first came out, it was clunky like all the rest. So let's go ahead and put in my username here. I can't copyright myself, right? So we'll load up, say, the unboxing. Now, when it came to the video performance, I had decent frames, I'd say, under 480. 720 seemed to struggle it a little bit. So we'll see if that persists. I'm going to have an advertisement.
There was a catastrophic
crash.
It was several hours before
I'm going to skip this in just a second, guys.
got medevaced out.
I'm Tom Steyer for Generate.
All right. So I wanted to let you hear the audio as well, because a lot of these things will either have audio issues or video issues. This one here is kind of having a mixture of just video. Delay is kind of like slow internet, but I really believe it has to do with the SD card being slow. This one here is a class 10, so it really shouldn't be that slow, but yet I'm still having these buffering issues here. Now, you could use Mplayer to cache your YouTube videos prior, which is what Raspberry Pi does sometimes. And that would smooth things out quite a bit. I'm pretty sure it would pretty much take out all this issues. Now, I didn't have as many problems loading these as I am right now, but it's perfect test to show you what really happens. I've done nothing to this build other than really get Chromium installed.
Comes with it. Now,
and
you would just
a
get
few things
a,
like pulse audio and things like that.
But we were able
So this is in
to 3D printed case. I think
$720 actually.
less than $4, really cheap. They sent me some SD cards. I've already taken
I'll
those
let you
out.
guys hear
and
the
just
audio
basic
of the
hardware.
video
There's
here.
not a lot going on in here. And a fan. If you
Might be a little loud.
buy this
I
board,
turned my
highly
headset down so I don't
recommend
hear
you get
double
the
laps of it
fan
all.
with it. So let's jump into this. And
So anyway, that's 720. It is usable, but it is a little slow. So
there we go.
it works though. It's not bad. I don't believe it'll handle full screen.
I really like. My other one had an issue on top, and look at that. They gave me extra hardware.
And it's going to make a liar out of me this time. So in my past tests, it's had buffering issues, as you see in the very beginning. So just keep that in mind. It seems to be the buffer is the problem. So if you can buffer it in any other way, take a look at the Raspberry Pis and how they handle theirs. It will help you out here as well. Here we go with buffering as well. So food for thought, but it does function as a pretty good, mini computer if you need to use the internet. You can definitely search things on the internet. So that's what I wanted to show here. Now, when you get this board, you won't have Chromium. You'll only have Iceweasel. Oh, I know I clicked it. There we go. Alright, the fan finally shut off. The fan I have on a script and a board I made, so it only comes on after 65 Celsius. Stays on for a minute and then checks temp again to see if it's below 65. Because that fan is really loud to me. And I know there's Anthony out there on my video saying, "No, I'm crazy." No, I'm not crazy. That thing is really loud. At least to me. I mean, maybe I have sensitive ears. Most of mine around here are Noctua because I can't stand the hiss of the fans. So as you can see, Iceweasel is no faster than Chrome as far as pull up. And when you first get it, you will notice that it is in Chinese. You will need to change that under your settings. As you can see here, we're in Chinese as well, and it's on mobile. So we'll switch that back over to Classic. Now I'll show you the biggest problem I had with Iceweasel, and this could be fixed simply by probably reinstalling Iceweasel, because I think there's an issue with their not recognizing either the sound or video. I haven't dug into it too deeply because I just move on over to Chromium half the time anyway. But it is very smooth, and I think it's worth looking into. As you can see here, it actually is outperforming Chromium in this sense. So, food for thought, but here is the problem. The problem is you cannot go to youtube.com successfully. And I'll show you right now what happens. So we're going to go to YouTube. Now it's probably going to be in Chinese, yes, because I haven't changed my region yet. So we're pulling up American but Chinese writing, YouTube. And then all of a sudden, we get a lockup up here on the top. You can see nothing is moving. And the reason why is because it's crashed. It's entirely frozen, and I can show you by just erasing the screen. And you can wait and wait and wait, but it's not going to come back. You'll end up having to end task on it eventually, which it should pop up now in a minute, because it's locked up. That's kind of a big problem for me, because when you buy this board and you go and download the software, this is really their only image they have of a desktop, and you're not able to really use your browser. So that's a big red flag for me as far as user friendly, I guess. But it is what it is. It can be fixed. It's just, it's not good for a normal user just to jump on and expect and then not be able to use it. It's kind of bad, but whatever. Next thing is I did have some time to throw in an emulator. And I didn't try all of them out. I'm not really into the emulation scene, but I went ahead and jumped in on this because a lot of people do ask or do play games. So we'll go ahead and load one up really quickly. Alright, so I'm terrible at any Mario anymore. When I was a kid, I enjoyed them, but I tell you, I'm not very good at it now. And I have to find the keyboard button. Whoa! So, I die immediately, first time, always. Let's go back up. Okay, when I was younger, I used to be good at this, but not anymore. As you can see, our frames are holding true up there around 60 frames. And it stays consistent at 60 the whole time. You see a little bit of tearing on the right-hand side of the screen as it's drawing. And that can be fixed by going into full screen, so it is able to do that perfectly fine. So I do see potential as far as an emulator goes. And it would be interesting to see what it can handle as far as like maybe N64, maybe some PS1s. Because I know my Odroid can handle some PS1s, so this really should be able to. Alright, so that's my main pluses with the board. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that if you go ahead and you look up its repos, for example, I wasn't able to find a lot of my programs because they weren't found in the repo. And it's kind of a pain. And if you look here, these are the only repos you actually get. And they're missing quite a bit of things. So I added the Raspbian repos, and I even added Chromium repos so I can get an updated version of Chromium. So if you get this board, you might think about doing this. Not necessarily the best idea because these are designed for the Raspberry Pi, but it was merely for just grabbing programs quickly that I wasn't able to find here. I don't typically run a GUI, so these won't matter to me shortly. I'll be starting fresh. But that's something to point out, that your repos are fairly limited. You don't have access to things like GL Mark II, which technically it doesn't really matter because we don't have GL fully, but we'll get into that here in the cons list. My cons are going to start out pretty rough as far as I'm concerned. If you are familiar with SSH into your box or into your Raspberry Pi, which if you're watching this you most likely are, you're familiar that the first time you load it up, you're greeted with the do you accept this SSL encryption key? And however many bit it is, doesn't matter. You have to either say yes or no, and that's that. Now, if you erase your card or you flash your card, for example, and you reinstall Raspbian or Noobs, whatever, doesn't matter, and you go to sign in again and you try to SSH in, what happens? First thing that's going to happen is you're going to get greeted with another key. It's going to say, hey, this is the key, do you accept? And that's because the key has changed from what it was. Now, that's how things are supposed to work. This image does not do that. It has a set SSH key. So every time you flash the image, that's the same key. As soon as you erase the card, put it back in, that's it. That, to me, is a huge security risk because that's what the key is for. Your safety so somebody else can't SSH into your box, assuming they found it on there. It's a whole lot of assuming, but even still, it's for safety. So if you get this, you need to create or generate a new key. And the reason why is I think the image is just a clone image of their system, and they're obviously not regenerating a new one. Alright, so I don't want to take this too long. Next thing is I had issues with the Mali 400 MP. I wasn't able to install the drivers, the updated ones, because the module isn't installed in the kernel. So I spent some time playing with it. I'm not very good at that sort of thing. It's kind of outside of my knowledge range, so I was unsuccessful, but I gave it a valiant effort, I'd say, for a few days. But if you're comfortable building kernels and modules, then that's something that maybe you guys could get working on. If you own this and you're watching this, definitely put a comment down below because I'd like to get that function to show more of what this board can do. So that's a big issue. Iceweasel Crashes, as I showed you. I'm unable to load XBMC or Kodi. I tried both of them because of the GL graphic driver issues, the Mali driver issues. Even when I tried to compile it myself, I was having issues because it's looking for an actual screen. The screen doesn't exist because the drivers aren't seeing it. So that's a thing. Also, if you get this, plan on little to no support from their main site. This is typical with a lot of these little vendors. There's not a lot of support with them, especially I guess you pronounce them a Nexel is the chip manufacturer that kind of puts this whole setup together using the Samsung chip. A lot of people seem to not like them. I don't personally care. If you buy this device, I hope that you know what you're getting. And if you use it as just a little desktop, knowing you're not going to see much, support after day one, it's not a bad little board. For the price, it's still not a bad little board, even if you use it for a server. It's got a great little processor in it. It is pretty fast. I mean, as you can see, it is very fast. Even in my bench tests, it was a pretty good competitor versus the Odroid. It didn't outshine the Odroid, but it was still a pretty good competitor. So, also, it has a old kernel. It has a 3.4, but it's kind of more like a 2.66. It's been pointed out on various forums, so that's a deal too. But again, know what you're getting when you get it. My final two big gripes are when you get to free memory, we don't have swap. Now you can't just simply swap on because they didn't put swap on in the kernel. So you need to recompile the kernel for swap on. That's kind of foolish in my opinion. Second thing with the kernel is you can't change your screen resolution. So you're unable to go to 1080p without recompiling the kernel. And a lot of people aren't going to want to do that. So that's kind of a big pain in the butt, really, is what it is. I think that they should have released their image with at least the 1080p boot image so you can just put it in and throw in your kernel real quick and have 1080p. And I will probably do that in the description. I'll create just a default kernel image for this build and throw it on there so you guys can have 720 or 1080 if you watch this and own this device. So really guys, that's my wrap up of this board. Is it worth the $35? I think so. The processor is a great little processor. It would be good for running multiple type servers. In fact, I always kind of run one of these. If I can open this. Oh, wow. It caught up to me, I guess. I always kind of run a PSCC to show how long it takes to build a vanilla Minecraft server. I always build vanilla on all the other boards, so I figured I'll do it on this. You can check the times it took to build them on my other videos and see how it stacks up versus, say, the Odroid or the Raspberry Pi when it comes to building the world for the first time. I will pause the video when we start building and resume so it doesn't take more time here. It's thinking. Alright. No. And the default password for this is FA, FriendlyArm, all that sort of thing. Alright, so we'll start the server up. Hit OK. Go here. We'll go to the screen real quick. See what's actually happening. And again, I will go ahead and pause this and resume when it is done. Alright, so it just finished. As you can see, we hit 112 seconds. That's actually pretty long for this one. Normally it's sitting around 70s, 80s, so not a very good test there. I will be putting out a video bench testing with an actual bench test between the Odroid XU4. I might use the Raspberry Pi 3, although we've kind of already seen it get bumped out from the XU4. But I'm thinking maybe a fair test. I built a script to bench test them all based on System Bench. So it'll do a 3-time test with System Bench and see where they all land and heat as they do it. See kind of how the boards are handling themselves as they do the test. This board throttles at 85 Celsius. With the fan they ship with it, it never really hits 85 Celsius. Even when under full load, I was able to climb it up. It got fairly close, but it never thermal throttled on me under performance. This video has been done while it's on the stock governor, so I can show what it would really act like. I believe it is set to, I want to say it's on demand. I won't go into too much here, but wrong keyboard. That's why. Let's go ahead and get out of there. But yeah, it's either on demand or interactive. It's definitely not set up all the way. But I don't want to make this video any longer, guys. I hope you stuck around for the full thing to see exactly what you would get if you got this board. And you will need to recompile some things to make it work with the setup to, like, for video and stuff like that. And anything OpenGL, you might want to try to recompile for OpenGL ES, like all the other boards and systems out there. So, if you did stick around, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, always hit that thumbs up. That's how more people find my videos, and I get encouragement to make more. So hopefully you enjoyed this as well. And if you're new here and you haven't subscribed, definitely hit the subscribe button. I'm going to try to throw out some more content as I come up with things to do. If you have any ideas that you want me to do, especially with this board or any of my other boards, put it down below and I'll see what I can't do. Now that I have this little recording device, capture device, I really want to share some more things. So definitely hit the subscribe if you are new here. And for those that have been with me so far, thank you very much. Always hit the thumbs up though. I appreciate it. Thank you guys very much.